Hello, thank you for joining me. I'm very delighted to be joined today by Atalya Ben-Abba. She is an Israeli conscientious objector who was imprisoned for refusing to serve in the IDF. I just want to firstly thank you so much, Atalya. It's a big honor to be joined by you. And I know anyone watching or listening to this, I think will be in awe of your courage and the fact that you're here to speak about what's happening, the horror at the moment. So just start, you were 19 years old. This was 2017. Can you explain why you refused to serve in the Israeli Defense Forces at that age and what the consequences were?
Yes. So first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate that. So when I refused, I was already an anti-occupation activist, mainly in Jerusalem, where I grew up. And I grew up in an area that is like really in the border between East Jerusalem and West Jerusalem, and East Jerusalem is the Palestinian part. And so I was very, I felt that I grew up with an understanding of what a military occupation looks like. And I just felt like I could not look myself in the eyes if I become a part of that. I didn't want to be a part of this military occupying force, and I didn't want to feel like I'm a part of what enables the occupation. And the way I saw it and still see it, I think the military force of Israel enables its control over Palestinian people. And I felt that any role I would take inside that system would be just helping it and being a part of it.
And you were sent to prison for 4 months.
4 months, yeah.
So can you just tell me what was, you're a teenager. It's a lot. It's a big sacrifice to make.
It was complicated. I think a lot of my closest friends at the time enlisted, and it felt like we could remain friends. But when it actually happened, when they became soldiers and I became like this very committed anti-occupation activist, we couldn't be friends anymore. It just felt like we didn't speak the same language anymore. Just in like the very basic of like, what are we talking about? Like they had military stories, which I thought were just like so hard. And it was very difficult with my family. And I think mainly being in a military prison for 4 months was a complicated experience. But actually, I think going through it when I was so young, it somehow, I looked at it as like this. Yeah, everyone was my age, the other prisoners were also 18 or 19, and the officers were 18 or 19. Like it's like everyone is your age, and no one is like a real criminal because it's a military prison. Most of the girls that were there with me were deserters because of economic reasons. It was this very, interesting experience.
Now, in terms of this occupation, this is the longest belligerent occupation in modern times. And across the West Bank, there are settlements which are illegal under international law. They constitute land grabs. We've seen ethnic cleansing, which has escalated since the horrors of 7th of October. What's your understanding of what the occupation actually means for Palestinians, which led you to this conclusion?
It's like living these exposed lives. Like there is no authority that they can turn to. And there is so much injustice happening. I don't know if exposed this is the word, but it's like I just came back from the West Bank where I've spent like the past 2 nights with families of Palestinian villagers who are being attacked by settlers. And just being like an Israeli Jewish woman there makes a whole lot of difference because the army treats me differently. Like the racism of the system, this is just what it works like. Like if there's a Jewish woman there, the army would act differently. They would be less violent. They won't do everything that they were planning to do. Like it, and it's because like I'm a citizen, so I have these rights. But being a Palestinian under military law, you have just no rights. And like joining that with the settler violence, where just they have this religious crusade of like purging the land and taking control over it, and it's like you see it in their eyes that they don't care about like hurting people and just making whole communities escape because of fear of being murdered. It's very scary. And yeah.
Now you're calling for a ceasefire, and I suppose, I suppose, like to hear your response to the argument that the Israeli state would make. I mean, this is not a popular position in Israel at the moment, and that just shows how courageous you are. The Israeli state and its supporters would say this is self-defense. On the 7th of October, innocent civilians were attacked, and this is the self-defense of Israel in response to those atrocities. So how would you respond to that in the arguments you'd use to support a ceasefire?
What happened in the 7th of October is awful and horrendous. And I have very, very close friends, and my sister and her children, all of them living in like near the Gaza Strip. And they had to evacuate their homes. And what happened there is truly horrendous. And I think and I believe that just indiscriminate murder of Gazan people does not do anything for those who died. It does not bring back our hostages. Like, it's not a plan to bringing back the hostages and returning to security to the people of the area. It's not that. It's this insane revenge plan, or that is not a solution. That is not a plan. That is not a strategy to bring security and safety and peace to the people of this land, to any of them, nor Israeli and not Palestinian. Like, in order to have security and safety and peace here, we can't just murder indiscriminately. And it's just, I don't even see it as like a strategy towards safety to anyone or to like self-defense. It's not that. It's just, I don't know, a revenge mission, a political mission. Yeah.
Where's your fear about where this will end? Because if we listen to the rhetoric of Israeli leaders and officials, it's not what I would describe as subtle. So when Benjamin Netanyahu quotes a biblical passage about Amalek, which if you read calls for the murder of men, women and children, when you have Israeli leaders talking about reducing Gaza to a city of tents, a leaked policy paper which some Israeli journalists got hold of, which spoke of the ethnic cleansing of the Gaza Strip. I mean, these are, or the defense minister saying we will eliminate everything. We're fighting human animals. What's your fear? Where does this lead?
It's awful. It's like yesterday I talked with my friends who I was staying at his house. I was sleeping at his house in the West Bank, and he told me like both of us are victims to awful leadership, to these just insane leaders who are power hungry. And he told me we are the people that can create peace, and together we, Palestinians and Jews and Israelis and Arabs, like together we are the people that can make this place somewhere you can live. And it's just like lately there have been is huge demonstrations against Bibi Netanyahu, you know, saying you have, like, Bibi has to go. And I just, this government has to go.
What would you say to international governments which support Israel, arm Israel, at the moment, which are, you know, refusing to condemn Israel for violations of international law? The UN Secretary General has called out the collective punishment of the Israeli people, of the Palestinian people, which is a violation of Article 33 of the Geneva Convention. But Western governments refuse to do that. What would your message be as an Israeli citizen who supports peace to governments such as the British government, the American government at the moment, and their position?
I think their funding has a huge role in this war. And it is not a funding that helps Israel defend itself. It's a funding that helps Israel's government to continue on this war of this murder of people. And I think stopping this funding would play a huge role in stopping this war. And like, we must have a resolution, like a political resolution to this. Like, it won't end with war or with bombing each other. Like, there has to be an agreement. And so I think in order to reach that, I think stop, like, the funding of foreign governments like the UK and the US needs to stop. Like, they give their, like, unconditional support, and it plays a huge role.
And finally, many will look at this horror at the moment, and the prospect of a lasting peace seems further and further away than ever. Jews, Christians, and Muslims have lived on that land for many, many centuries. What hope do you have of a lasting peace, and how we get there?
I think for us, the people who live here, there's no, like, that's the only choice. I don't think we can live here or exist here with war, in a continuous war, in a never-ending war. The only way for us to be alive is if we have peace. And I guess that's not exactly hope, but it's for us to be here. It's inevitable that we'll have peace.
Atalya, thank you so much for joining us. I have to say, you know, there is always hope, however, you know, diminished it may be. And the reason there's hope is because of people like yourself. There'll only be hope if the voices of people like yourself are victorious, which I have to hope will happen one day. And I know you have there's a petition which has been announced calling for people to support this ceasefire. The link will be in the video. So whether this is on YouTube or everywhere I publish it, I'll include a link to the petition. So please do sign it. Voices like yours are so important right now. You're very courageous, as I say. So thank you so much for joining us. Please like and subscribe if you're watching. And thank you so much, Atalya. I really appreciate it.